Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Today, we are talking all about mindset, and I am just so thrilled for you to hear what Alex has to say. She is a nutrition and mindset coach and mentor. She owns the Fuel Method, and she currently lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not too far from where I'm located in Durham. So Alex, she is super passionate about helping women break free from their past experiences, especially with dieting, and really helping them step into just the next level of confidence and empowerment on their journey. And, you listening to this, I'm all about mindset, empowerment, confidence, like all these beautiful things that sort of fuel the fire along our journey. And so I just can't wait for you to hear what Alex has to say. So welcome to the show, Alex.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. So excited for this conversation.
Yes. And like how Alex and I got hooked up was we share a mentor. We met several months ago. We went on a retreat together, went on a second retreat together because we all got along so well. And it's just been this beautiful relationship with just this group of women. And I couldn't wait to have her on the show because she talks a lot about mindset on her Instagram page, which we'll get to that at the end. And she helps a lot of her clients work through mindset, which you all know that I'm all about. It's a muscle that we have to work, just like working out in the gym, which both Alex and I also do. So we'll definitely get more into that. But to go back to the beginning a little bit, Alex, and I know a lot of listeners have struggled with this, and even in their journey with plant-based eating and just in their journey with health, like kind of take us back to the beginning on how you found out that something had to change with your approach to living this like quote healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. I wanted it so bad. I wanted to be like to describe myself as this like healthy person that was consistent with her workouts and feel strong and know that I was like nourishing my body. Like I wanted it so badly. But to me at the time, it was either or, black or white. Like there was no in between. And because I was trying so hard to hold on to one area, I pushed off my social life. Like I would say no to going out with friends, or I felt like a bit of a burden when I was with my family, like around holidays and stuff, like that I was trying so hard to live this like perfect healthy lifestyle. And at some point I had this like awakening where I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not fun. This is feeling like so much effort. And I saw all these other people that were seemingly to me like just living the lifestyle. Like it was a lifestyle for them. And for me, it felt like so much work.
Ooh, yeah.
And I I was exhausted. Like I wanted it so badly, but there was just like this missing part. Like it didn't feel like it was a part of me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So when I realized like this is not meant to feel like this. It's not meant to feel like constant effort and force. Like this is, if I really truly want this to be my lifestyle, I had to step back and think about like what are the things that I enjoy in both areas? Like not only in this healthy lifestyle where I want to work out and I want to eat healthy and nourish my body, but I also want to be social with my friends and have a drink and go out on the weekends and enjoy the holidays, and or just like a random weekend where people are like, hey, come over for a barbecue, where I felt so stressed because when those things would come up. And so then when I sat back and I looked at what I valued in both of those things, then I thought like, okay, well, how can I start to like bridge that gap between them? Or how can I kind of like meld them together in a way that feels good for me?
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to release more of like the perfection side of like trying to live this perfect healthy lifestyle. And then also like the free for all that was my social life. And
Yes.
how could I bring those things together?
Yeah, absolutely. And very similar to what you're saying, I see this a lot in the plant-based community, especially for people who are first going plant-based, is like, we feel like you said, it's this constant effort, this constant force of like trying to be perfect. And it almost becomes isolating because like you said, you're kind of giving up on your social life. You're giving up on going out to eat because, what's going to be in the food. And it can feel really, really restrictive. And very clearly you're saying, okay, I don't want this life. Like obviously there's a way to have the best of both worlds, to live this like healthy, happy life and also live a life.
Right.
So yeah, so tell us more on how you kind of got out of that like restrictive mindset, this mindset. And I know you talk a lot about willpower, which I love, of like, gosh, this is not about willpower. It's about so much more. So tell us more about how you bridge that gap.
Yeah. When you look at the definition of willpower in the dictionary, it literally means control exerted to do something or restrain impulses, the ability to delay gratification and to resist short term temptation in order to meet your long term goals. And in the weight
Mm.
loss world, in the healthy living world, in the plant-based world, you're like, yeah, I want that. Like this, like I want to be able to delay my gratification. I want to be like, I want to be consistent in the short term to meet my long-term goals. Like I want willpower. I want that. But the first part of that was control exerted to do something or restrain impulses. And that to me, when I was, getting more and more and more into the mindset work behind all of this, that like I just realized that your control or restraint or the restriction that you're feeling was never meant to be associated with your lifestyle. Like your
Mm.
lifestyle, like who you are, should not feel controlled or restrained or like you can't be the person that you want to be. But that came down to getting clear on why you want to be doing what you're doing. That it's when you get clear on what your goal is and why you want it, then you start to be able to like dig a little bit deeper than like what the just like the basis of the goal is. Like, yeah, I want to lose weight. Like, okay, let's go a little deeper than that.
Mm.
Why did I want to lose weight? And then I say, well, I want confidence. Like, okay, well, what is that going to bring you? And why do you want that? And you just keep digging deeper and deeper into the why. And then it starts to come out. And once you have the why, when you feel it like deep in your heart, you just keep asking, well, why do I want that? And why do I want that? Then that effort, the force it doesn't feel so effortful and forceful because you feel so much more aligned and connected to why you actually want it. Because on the base, like on the surface, the goal can feel so far away, and so then when you're not connected to like the journey of getting there, like that's really like where the why can like help you pull yourself through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And oh my gosh, for those of you listening, you're like, wow, Alex, I can totally relate to that, to my with my journey right now, like going plant-based or thinking about going plant-based. Like it just seems like there's so much effort involved and I feel really restrictive. Like Alex said, if you can get really hone in on that why, it can just give you so much clarity on, again, why you're doing what you're doing, why this journey is important to you. And that can help take a lot of that effort, like take the effort and move it into alignment, similar to what Alex said, because things really start coming together where you actually do feel aligned on your journey versus like forcing yourself to do something that maybe it's not in alignment, or maybe it's not in alignment right now, or maybe there's just some things that you need to shift, especially mindset wise, to help this plant-based journey feel more in alignment with you.
Yeah. Well, and I want to invite the listeners to take on the perspective of I am in this for life. I'm in this for
Mm.
the quality of my life. Like letting go of like the military style on off all or nothing mentality that we've been talking about, and you choose to be in this for the quality of your life. And that comes down to like what I was saying before with like you have these two things in your life that you value. You value your health and you want to live this healthy lifestyle. You also value spending time with your friends and family. But when you choose for both, like when you say, okay, I'm in this for the quality of my life, and you stop looking at it in the sense of like the days and the weeks, like you're like super zoned in and focused on just like like present, but you zoom out and you look at this in terms of like years in your life, like that it just you can see and release more of the control and the restraint that you're holding on so tightly to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like most of us grew up, well, all of us have grown up really immersed in this diet culture where things are all about willpower, all about control, and all about sort of like restricting ourselves to quote, live this healthy, happy life that never ends up happening because what we're doing isn't sustainable and it's sure as heck is not enjoyable. And so, Alex, I love that you talk about those things and how to kind of relinquish that control and almost have that trust within yourself to, like you said, bridge the gap of having a healthy, happy lifestyle and also living this happy, healthy lifestyle, like actually having fun in your life instead of using things like willpower and restriction and like making this lifestyle feel really forced. Like, what do you encourage people to do instead, in addition to really digging deep with that why? I know you kind of talk about even just the opposite of those terms.
Mhm. Well, so I have like some questions that I take my clients through that I think would be helpful is to just start with what do I want?
Mm,
Like your goal, the results, the dream, like the fruits of your labor, what do you want? And then why do I want it? And that's what I was saying before is like really dig into the why do I want that? Why is that important to me? Why do I want that? You keep asking why. What do I believe that will bring me? Why do I want that? You just keep going with that. I know it
mm,
can go, you can go for that for like 5 or 10 minutes. Then getting clear, you say, who do I want to be? This is one of my favorite questions. When you think about who your future self is, how does she act in those social situations? Like, imagine yourself a year from now. How does she act at the holiday party, or how does she plan ahead in her week? And you start envisioning this future version of yourself that you feel like you're not there yet, because I think what you were just saying is like we've been brought up in this diet culture that right now in the present moment we feel like to get to that future self we have to be like super tight and like hold tightly on to the rules, where when you think about your future self, like I envisioned mine feeling free around food and feeling empowered around food, and just knowing that I could make any situation work no matter how I felt, and knowing that like I could let go of that perfectionism. Getting back, you say, who do I want to be? And you get really clear on that. If and when the logical brain starts to sneak in, you're like, yeah, but time, but kids, but money, but I don't know. Ignore the logical brain when you do this exercise. And then you say, how do I start to take action as if I'm already that person?
mm.
So you start then, like once you map that out, once you envision her, you paint the picture, you got it clear in your head, then you start to say, okay, well, if I was in that situation, like if I was my future self right now, how would she act, or how would she respond, or how would she prepare for this, instead of acting in where we are right now.
I love that. Yeah. And we'll put those questions in the show notes for those of you who are listening and you're like, oh, I can totally relate to what Alex is saying. Or like, that's me right now is I feel like this is so much effort. I feel really restricted. And I feel like I have this all or nothing mentality. I think like Alex was saying, going through these questions, asking yourself these things, taking the time to just don't let the world or anything else like constrain you from just these free flowing thoughts. So whether you go through the questions and just think about them, resonate with them, or even just like write them down, I think that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, and the goal is that you have a super strong connection between who you are right now and who you want to be. And that's where then when we talked about like the value, you have the values of both, enjoying, like you want the healthy lifestyle, you want the social life, but you feel like they don't mix. But then when you step back and you think about like, well, how would my future self handle that? And then you start to make that connection between where you are right now and then who you want to become.
Yeah. Yeah. You slowly start emulating them and becoming that person, this vision
Yeah.
of yourself that you have.
Yes. And then the next piece is taking the perspective of you're in this for life.
Mm,
Like to then take off the pressure of like I have to do this right now. It's like your future self is just, it's a vision, and like you'll get where you get eventually, but like the future is never here. But that we slowly each day we start making more and more choices that are aligned with that vision, but that it will continue to change and evolve as we change and evolve too. But just taking off the pressure,
Yeah.
because you're in it for life.
Yeah. Yep. And you're so right. Like it's going to continue to change and evolve as you continue to change and evolve. And that's the more that you do it, the more that you take those baby steps. And I talk about this all the time on the podcast, like small steps, small changes add up to big results over time. And it may seem far off in the distance, but taking those few steps now are just going to get you one step closer to this person that you envision in the future.
And I want to also give a couple like tools that
Yeah.
they can do like in the moment. So one of them I always say is setting your environment up for success. So, keeping things out of sight is a strategy. However, I want you to approach it with a different intention behind it, where when you do like organize your home or your pantry or you're going grocery shopping, is that you let your future self take the reins there. You let her be the one to put the groceries away or to do the shopping or the meal planning. Like I like literally imagine yourself putting on this hat like this, or maybe it's a crown, I don't know. Like but that you put on this hat and you say, okay, right now in this moment, I'm choosing to do this as my future self. And you set your home up for success. So,
Mm,
whether that's like pre-chopping the vegetables, so you have them all laid out for the week, or when you are doing the meal planning and the grocery shopping, that you're going through it not in a hurried fashion, but you're like, okay, my future self is doing this and she's moving like, she feels comfortable in the grocery store, she feels comfortable with the meal planning, like, and you take on almost this different persona. But if you can feel it, like she's in there, she's there already, but you just have to start bringing her out and connecting to that more.
yeah.
That's number one, is like setting your environment up for success with the intention of it being from your future self.
I have like an example because we somewhat touched on this a few weeks ago when we were together. I was together with Alex in Colorado, and she had mentioned sort of setting up this environment in her own house, and it included spending less time in front of the TV. And I think you went as far to maybe like put your TV in another room or just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. I was like, oh my gosh, what a great example. And I was thinking of my future self in this, and my future self isn't watching as much TV, isn't watching as much Netflix, isn't spending that much time on social media. And so what Nick and I have done is we can like turn our TV so that's not facing the living room. And we've been doing that more often in the evenings. And I've been loving it because like my future self isn't just every single night plopping down and watching TV. And I don't know, I'm just so excited, so jazzed. I mean, obviously it hasn't been this huge change overnight, but slowly but surely we're making a more intentional decision in the evening of not just sitting down and watching TV, but doing other things. And I'm just so excited to see where it leads.
Okay, so the second thing is to catch yourself doing good. I don't know when I read it, but this teacher wrote up math equations on a whiteboard, and it said like really simple, like 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3, all the way up to 10 plus 10. And she intentionally added one of them incorrectly, turned around to the class, and like, they looked at the board and they started calling her out for her mistake. And they're like, oh, look, you got the one wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. And she said to them that this is a representation of what can happen in our lives, is that we get so focused on the one wrong thing. We get so focused on the one wrong equation that we don't notice the other 9 that we did right.
Wow. Yeah.
It's so good. Like,
That's so good.
and so when you start catching yourself doing the things right or well or more aligned with your future self, you step towards it and you notice it and you feel good about it. And then you like sit with that for a little bit. Like, how long can you feel good about the good things that you're happy about,
Yes.
instead of when you notice you're like, oh, I did that good, but I did that wrong.
Yep.
And then you sit with the negative feeling. Like, how many times can you catch yourself doing good and like sit with the good feeling?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's really powerful. And honestly, that makes me think of even just my own relationship with myself, with Nick, of like not putting a dish away. And like literally that's the only thing I focus on. But he did, laundry and he made the bed and did all these other things. And I'm like, but that dish is, in the sink still. And I think that goes like, we're so quick, especially with ourselves, to focus, like you said, on that negative piece that we lose sight of all these other little things that we're doing that are so positive. And like you said, are aligning with our future self. And so I think that's a great example and something that for you listening, that I would love to challenge you to do is really focus on those things that that make you proud, and especially make your future self proud.
Absolutely. And when you notice them, then that like call yourself out for it and be like, oh, hey, future self, like give her or him, give him a name. Mine. So I go by Alex, but my future self is Alexandra. And
Love it.
so like, I'm like, oh, hey, Alexandra, like you came out today. Like, like this could be a whole nother podcast episode. Honestly, like we are wired for negativity. We have to start training our brain to start paying more and more attention to the good things that are happening. And so that's like, you have to choose this though. Like you have to choose to find the good things and celebrate the good things so that it becomes more and more and more.
Yeah. This reminds me, probably similar to you with when clients first start working with me, we celebrate our wins on our call. That's the first thing that we talk about. And the first like few calls, it's like, oh, I don't know, I did this, or maybe I meal plan for the week. And then like call 9 or 10, it's like literally this like checklist of all these things that they did that they're so excited to talk to me about. And so you're right. Like it can be really intentional and maybe a little bit challenging in the beginning, but the more that you start doing it, the more you start noticing it, the more you're aware of it, the more you start calling yourself out for it. So it's a really powerful thing. Yeah, I love it.
All right, and then I saved the best for last.
Yeah.
And it is so simple. And you're gonna be like, really? Like this is like when the willpower feels like it's running out, like when you're still focused on the willpower thing, like it's just to breathe, to take a breath. Because like, when you're so overwhelmed and you're at the party and you're hungry and you grab the first thing available, or you come home from work and you are hungry, you grab the first thing available. You need to train yourself to just take a breath, and it can take 5 seconds and no one has to know that you're doing it. Think of your impulse as feeling hot. Like the idea, like it's hot, like we want it right now, where the future or the why is cool because it feels further away. So like the impulse, like it's close, it's there, like it's hot, you want it. The future is cool. We're really like the goal with the breath is to cool the impulse down and heat the why up, or heat the future up, where you flip the switch on your impulse and the vision. And that's what the breath and just giving yourself like a couple seconds to separate yourself. And it's not that you can't have it, it's that the breath allows you to make a mindful decision. So it does take effort, but when you start to catch yourself doing good, like then you start to notice and catch yourself when you're like going to respond to the impulses. And you're like, whoa, hang on, future self wouldn't be doing this right now. Let's breathe.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So it's such a small thing, but it's so, so powerful. Because again, the more that you can take just a small moment, 5 seconds to really just slow down, breathe, and just put more intention behind what it is that you want to do, that can really add up as well.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing your insights and sharing these questions, which I really want to challenge you listening to go through these questions, especially if this really resonated with you. Go through these questions, go through these 3 steps, especially, and really just try to envision your future self and take those steps towards him or her, just go for it, see what happens. So thank you again, Alex. And for anyone who has any questions or wants to connect with you or is maybe interested in doing one of your programs, which are awesome, by the way, where can they connect with you?
You can find me at The Fuel Method on Instagram. That's the best place to connect.
Cool. And that link will be in the show notes as well. So thank you again, Alex. And thank you everyone for listening in. Until next time, keep thriving.